Hello and welcome everyone to CultCast, the podcast that unravels the fascinating world of brands, marketing, and the creative leaders that shape them. In the first season, we'll explore the ROI of creativity and how investing in creative talents can drive business growth. I'm your host, Charmaine Wong, and here today's topic touches on the role of creative thinkers and how their innovative ways of thinking can lead a business towards growth. Here with me today to lead that conversation is Matt Roop, VP of Creative at ZEBEDEE, a company building lightning network integrations for developers and a lifestyle brand for consumers. Matt previously worked as a graphic designer in New York City and around the world with Lippincott, Foreign Policy Design Group, Sightmaster and Walsh, and currently he's based in Singapore. He leads his team with a strong emphasis on empathy, quality, and depth to create full-blown branding systems that propels business growth. We are so excited to have him here today, and we can't wait to hear your thoughts on the role of creative thinkers. So welcome, Matthew. Hi.
Hello. Hi. Great. Awesome.
So before we
Nice introduction there.
So before we start, maybe we can tell us a bit about yourself and ZEBEDEE.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Matthew. I am the VP of Creative at ZEBEDEE. ZEBEDEE is a Lightning Network startup. We develop tools, Bitcoin tools for developers, game developers, not just game developers though, app developers of all kinds really, to integrate Bitcoin into their product experiences. And the real treat with what we do is that we can enable really, really tiny transactions with very, very low fees, and they're instant. And so this has unlocked a whole world of cool functionalities within products. So as the VP of Creative, I'm just kind of overseeing that brand and, like Charmaine mentioned, addressing the B2B and B2C sides of our brands.
Nice. Now, can you discuss the role of creative thinkers in overcoming business challenges, especially in today's fast-changing business environment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, these days, businesses tend to really want to emphasize their features. They want to emphasize things like quality. Maybe they even want to push the ideas of, good pricing and all of this. But I think that as creatives, we really have the challenge of saying, well, hold on, wait a minute. There's a bigger story to be told about your brand, about your company. Generally speaking, these days, products, they should all have a certain level of quality. So you're not really saying anything when you say that we have a quality product. They should all have great features, and there's a lot of things that users really expect from products that it becomes the kind of thing where if you don't have it, then you're kind of behind. So to say that you do have these features, right, or these like USPs that are kind of broad, you're not really saying anything. So what you do want to talk about, and I think this is where the creatives come in, is what are your values as a company? What are your values as a brand? What is the kind of overall experience that you're selling or that you're allowing users to have when they use your products? And it's these things that are a little more intangible. And so the task, I think, for creatives becomes, how do I tell that story while also, mentioning the features that my stakeholders, are telling me to include, but how do I tell that story so that it actually registers for users, right? Because people are seeing, most marketing materials on their phones these days. They don't have time to like listen to your 3 or 4 bullet points about, your product features. They want to see something that inspires them, excites them, that resonates with them as individuals. And so to do that, you really do need to invest in creatives who understand that thinking. And yeah.
That's so great. That actually covers my second question. My question too. I love that. Can you repeat that? Inspire, excite, and what was the last thing you said? Something about inspire, excite users to. Okay, so actually
that resonates with them. Yeah.
And resonates with them. So my second question was, how do you see the role of creative thinkers evolving in businesses as technology continues to advance?
Yeah. Right. So obviously on one hand, there's what I just said, but I do think it's more than that. I think that, with the advent of AI, and I don't want to be too trendy and like mention AI, but the fact of the matter is like it's a big deal, and it's gonna have big impact, and already has for creatives. So with the advent of things like AI, I think that content, like generating content, generating ideas just becomes easier, to the point where now suddenly every brand can have great content. Every brand can have great copywriting because the computer is just churning it out. So how do you stand out now when it's even more kind of competitive in that sense? And I think that, when it comes to Gen Z and the generations to follow, I think that it's really more about being authentic and kind of cutting the BS, right? So I think that so long as creatives are always thinking along those lines, like how can we just be real? How can we just be upfront?
Yeah.
Be self-aware.
Mm.
I think there's a lot of values that you have to think through, like like I just said, being self-aware, being genuine. If you have those values and make sure that your brand is associated with them, I think that you'll have a competitive edge. But we just have to adapt, right? Technology is always changing, and so. But I do think that those are kind of timeless qualities that no matter where technology ends up, if you have those, you'll be in a good place.
I totally agree, man. And I feel that there's a lot of thoughtfulness right now. You can't just provide a design for the sake of design anymore. You really have to think about the business or the values, like you said, and what is the USP and what is your end user thinking about as well. So my next question is about how can companies measure the impact of creativity and innovation on their business growth? And for this question, I actually wanted you to also share about ZEBEDEE and how you guys think about that B2B and B2C sort of impact, right? And how you measure it.
Sure, yeah. It's a tough one. I think that this is probably where, maybe the non-creative business owners get a little tripped up because they want to be able to see the numbers and, did this thing work or not? They wanted to just know. But kind of our approach to this at ZEBEDEE is that we sort of develop a brand platform where we list out all of our values. We list out, whenever we create any kind of marketing or product, any asset really, it's not limited to marketing. It could be customer experience as well, customer service, sorry. Whenever we do anything, basically, we want to make sure that the experiences that customers are having can sort of be directly related to that brand platform. So if we say that our brand is, edgy, that's like really generic, but just as an example, if we say that our brand is edgy, then we want our customers to always have an edgy experience, even with customer service. So the tone of voice that maybe our customer service people are using, it might be a little more edgy, right? Or our marketing materials are obviously going to be a little more edgy. And so the point is that you build up, you kind of have these attributes and these values, and they're always associated with anything that you do. And what you want to do is you ask yourself, is this initiative, is this experience in line with our brand values and our brand platform? If it is, then it is contributing towards, the creative expression, the overall marketing goals of our company. You can't measure it in like direct numbers, but you can at least have like, our SVP of marketing always says like this yardstick, right? You can always have this yardstick by which to measure your experiences, and if they're in line, then you're working towards your goal, which is great. And if it's not in line, then you have something that you need to adjust next time. And so I feel that's basically the only solution, because you're not going to be able to get like direct feedback in a traditional sense, like sales or something.
Yeah. I love that. That actually goes back to the fundamentals, right? Like, what is your brand value? What is your brand identity? And if you don't have that very clearly defined to your own team, creative and marketing, then the teams can't go out and like share
Yeah.
those values and experiences with the customers. That's so good. And next question is, what are the best approaches for encouraging a culture of innovation and creativity in a workplace?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that there, for this one, there's really lots of ways to do this. I can just share kind of what I like to do, what I try to do at least. I think that, having worked in agencies and like I mentioned earlier, like a very competitive environment, yeah, I really question like that competitiveness is good for short-term outcomes because you get strong work, but then everyone burns out a few years later, which absolutely is true. So I think what I try to do is create an environment that is more team focused, right? If you think of it in terms of, let's just say like branding directions, just for those listening, we're working on a campaign or a brand. There's everyone in the team has a direction or two that they want to pitch. The attitude that I want the team to have is that it's our direction, that it's not any one individual contributor's direction, right? We all own the work, we're all feeding off of each other, steal from each other, it's fine. It's a team atmosphere. And I think that if you can get people thinking that way, then they're going to be a lot happier, because if you don't, then let's say I'm working on something and then my coworker kind of copies me, then I get all precious and angry about it, and it's just not a good vibe.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, like just kind of keeping it from being too competitive and more team focused. I think also you can do things like, for instance, we have been really focusing heavily on product marketing lately, and it was something that we had tried a few things in the past. I felt like they weren't working. So I wanted to ask the team, hey, why don't you all go out and find some really strong cases of like good product marketing out there? Maybe Google has done, or any other company, really. Come back and tell me why it's good. Tell me why it works. And what this does is it gets the team thinking in terms of what are kind of the factors that make a successful product marketing piece, right? You can do this with any kind of thing. Those are a couple of things, but I really do feel that it's a matter of, I guess, temperature testing your team, like noticing where are you weak, what's not so good, and figuring out what are the ways that I can improve, help people grow, help them improve in those areas, while also keeping people happy, right? Because at the end of the day, they need to feel valued. And it can always be a little tough as well when you maybe have creatives that are contributing and their work is perhaps like going through or being approved more than others, but you still want to make the others feel valued, right? And so it's really just kind of managing all the creative drama that is like inevitable. Yeah, but I think that, I know this is kind of long-winded, but this kind of goes back to my bio that you were reading, and like empathy, right? We have to really care about the people that we work with if we want to create good work and also have a good time, which is important.
Dude, you just dropped a whole like chapter on like the empathetic leader. No, I can hear there's so much mindfulness when you talk about your team, and you actually really kind of evaluate and assess, like you said just now, temperature check, making sure that there is also transparency and also fairness, in different teams. So that, good job, dude. This is so inspiring. Matt, the next question is, how can businesses maintain a balance between creativity, innovation, and practicality in their growth stages?
Yeah, right. So again, this is that area where creatives don't necessarily want to go all the time. You do have to measure the work at the end of the day, and that's the harsh sort of reality of it, but that's okay. Really the way that it's done is you just want to see what was the impact of any given campaign or initiative. Did it have good reach? Did it find a niche in the marketplace where maybe a certain group of people are interested in this, whereas another group of people aren't interested? Is there the kind of thing where you're doing A/B testing, where you try a certain idea for a certain group of people that is a little more edgy, maybe younger, and then you try a different idea and see, you know, how those things work. So they're very kind of standard marketing practices that are definitely needed. And I think that it's really just a matter of perspective for the creatives, you know, because we tend to, as creatives, we tend to want to just say, no, this is the way to do this. Like, this is the way to communicate this. And I understand that. And it's good that you feel strongly about your work, but, you know, numbers, sadly, numbers don't lie. And so you do have to follow what's working. And you should look at it as, you know, this is a way for kind of for us to try things, right? Let's try things. Let's have fun. Let's see if we can come up with stuff outside the box that works. And then let's circle back after something goes live and see how it did. And so you can make a game out of it in a way, but it is absolutely necessary to measure the work and measure the impact. And, you know, I think I would say that it's easier for the creatives to kind of understand and go with that than it is for maybe the ROI people to allow that I guess that trial and error type of thing. But it's important. Otherwise, you'll never find out what you're capable of doing beyond, like, outside the box. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Also, you're trying to say that, you know, creatives right now, you can't just be that left brain anymore. You got to be right brain as well. And
for sure.
On top of that, you're also saying that beyond metrics, there also needs to be some sort of emotional value that, you know, drive your customers. And I think, you know, I run a startup right now. So my creative team is a lot smaller than how it used to be. But I always tell my designer that, you know, you have to think beyond just beautiful work. Like, is it creating that emotion? Like what you say, we're edgy, we're cool, you know, like misfits. Are we translating that in the artwork and, you know, making people feel the same way? Cool. We're down to our final question. Can you share any books or tools or resources that you would recommend for anyone interested in learning more about the world of creative thinkers in business growth and innovation?
Yeah, sure. I feel like I'm going to give the most generic answers, but I feel that Steve Jobs is a really good person to go to. You know, any of his work, any of his kind of YouTube presentations and interviews are really, really good because he was someone who understood, and he very clearly put a lot of time into thinking about brand and thinking about marketing. But he's also, you know, he's the guy in charge. He's also the numbers guy. So, you know, I feel that he's the greatest example to give to the people who are maybe not so creative, because at least, you know, you can just say, well, look at Apple. They're obviously successful. Let's just, you know, kind of emulate what they were doing. So I would say, you know, for the more like business minded people, obviously Steve Jobs was a really, really strong source of, I guess, visionary kind of marketing and brand. But for the creatives, you know, I think that I'm still at my heart a brand person. And so I can give you some of my favorite brand people, and y'all can go check them out. It's maybe a little slightly off topic from the question, but, you know, some of my favorite designers are, you know, Stefan Sagmeister, which I got to work at his office. He's really strong at thinking outside the box, but also creating work that resonates, which is very, very important. Paul Rand is like an old school brand designer, but he created really, really timeless work. And yeah, those are a couple of my favorite designers at the moment. But yeah, I would say the best thing you can do is kind of look at the successful brands out there, see what they've done, find some of their thought leadership, and just always stay in a learning mindset, right? Always be looking at what other people are doing, because, you know, you're not going to be the only person that comes up with good ideas, right? It's creativity really is about borrowing ideas and improving upon ideas. And I don't want anyone to trick themselves into thinking they're like the originator of a good idea. No, it's all related to something that you already knew or that you saw somewhere else. So there's no shame in kind of looking out at the marketplace and borrowing and improving on ideas.
Dude, you just mic drop. That was such a good interview. Thank you so much, Matt, for all your insightful thoughts. We're so happy you managed to spend time with us today and gave so much good perspective. And also, there's so much advice and good, honest leadership thoughts as well. So thank you so much. And that wraps up our second episode of CultCast. If you like what you've heard, do give us a follow on LinkedIn and YouTube. Well, we'll be sharing a total of 10 episodes with 10 leaders in branding, marketing, and the creative industry. Thanks for tuning in, and thank you so much, Matt.